as you know, during the election campaign, Ray Hadley has joined me here every Tuesday night. Now, we've got an announcement to make, and Ray's back here now. It's not good news for your blood pressure, Ray. Your blood pressure was doing better every other day of the week. But
my GP said that he watches this on a Tuesday night, Dr. Jeff, and he said, you've got to calm down a bit. You're getting on a bit. But I've just had a discussion with management, and I'm going to be back here every Tuesday night to talk to you. For one reason, I love what you do. I watch you when I'm not here.
Thank you.
And even though I'm retired or semi-retired, just coming here on a Tuesday night and having a yarn with you about a whole range of things keeps the mind active.
Well, you are the absolute best in the business. I'm so grateful and honoured to have you on the show permanently every Tuesday.
That's right.
Thank you so much for being part of it from now on. So there you go,
Fantastic.
Ray Hadley joining our program as a permanent regular every Tuesday night. Wonderful news. I know you're all loving it at home. All right, Ray, commiserations now. What a shocking result.
Well, who would have guessed that?
Not us, that's for sure, not us.
Well, no, not even the opinion polls, not even Labor. I think it caught them by surprise. I noticed Richo on earlier, and he was saying there was still a way forward for the Liberal Party prior to the election. And, of course, he's absolutely delighted with the victory for his beloved Labor Party and his comrades there. But, look, I've got to congratulate Anthony Albanese and say about the Liberal election and the way they conducted themselves, I'm still scratching my head. We talked about it every Tuesday night for 5 weeks about the missteps, and it seemed to be very much ad hoc on the run. And I've said before, I like Peter Dutton. I think he's a really decent fella.
Likewise.
Yeah, but, I don't think he should shoulder all the responsibility. There needs to be a bit of research into what went wrong and how it went wrong. You can't go from being in such a powerful position before Christmas to getting lapped. And it's 87, they're going to creep to 40 by the look of it, May 41 or 42. But, I mean, if anyone had suggested that prior to the election, particularly before they called it, they would have had the straitjacket out and put you in a straitjacket. So, no, they can't get to 87. The other mob can't just get to 40 or 41. It'll be much closer than that. And, well, it's not. The only thing, they've got this overwhelming majority in the lower house. They'll need to do a bit of bartering and horse trading in the Senate.
With the Greens or the Coalition.
Yeah. Look, I say to you, Sharri, and Adam Bant, well, it's on a knife's edge there for him, and I'd be happy to see him out of politics for a whole range of reasons. But then you look at who may be the leader of the Greens. Sarah Hanson-Young, maybe.
Well,
but anyway.
Well, the deputy leader in the Senate is Maureen Faruqi. She's the one who stood next to that sign with the Jews getting in the bin.
Yeah, that would not be good. But anyway, but I can't understand the fascination with the Teals. I really can't. Nicola Buller made more mistakes than anyone was entitled to make in the lead up to what was happening in Bradfield, and she's narrowly in front, although the claims coming from the Liberals that they might grab it through postal votes. And then Sophie Scomps, I thought James Brown was a reasonable choice, former army officer, and
I think he is a good candidate.
Yeah, I thought he was a very good candidate. He didn't get anywhere close. And then you've got Andrew Constance down south. He's like last week's pay. He's gone. He's had 2 shots at the Senate and I think 2 shots at the lower house, and unsuccessful every time.
He's got to move on now.
Yeah,
clearly people don't want him for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't know what it is. He's a local down there as well. But it's going to be different next election with the restraints put on by Labor and Liberal in terms of spending. Clive Palmer's no longer a factor. He's going to pack up his tent and move on after spending $60 million, which was about half of what he spent in 2022. But I just don't understand the electorate's persistence with the Teals. They say one thing and do another. They have no power, no real power in Parliament, but there seems to be this fascination, and I don't know whether it's the young vote or what it is, but they're useless.
Well, this is what I think. I agree with you. They're useless and ineffective and no substance, and the whole premise that they were elected on integrity is a farce. But I think what it is that Australians didn't want to vote for the Coalition this time. They didn't want to vote for Scott Morrison last time. I mean, Labor's primary barely grew by 1.5%. In this election. They've got a landslide result, but their primary is still at a pretty low level historically, 34%. So it's that Australians didn't want to vote for the Liberals, so then they turned to the other parties, which are the Teals.
Well, let me ask you a question in relation to the leader of the Liberal Party, because I think and I don't mean to be disrespectful, I think...
So this is what it's going to be like. You're here as a permanent regular, now you're asking the questions.
I don't think anyone leaps out at me. I said in a piece yesterday that Angus Taylor's a brilliant mind, a brilliant bloke, but he has no charisma. He's not a warm sort of person. I said yesterday, rather boldly, that if I was having a Roman orgy, I'd send him out for the grapes because he's pretty boring. But, I mean, I just don't know who leaps out. Dan Tehan, Susan Lee. I mean, Andrew Hastie has a disadvantage. He's young and he comes from Western Australia. But I'd be looking at him. I think they've got to really reinvent themselves.
I think he doesn't have the experience yet.
No.
Angus Taylor is partly to blame for failing to prosecute the cost of living case, also for some of the flawed policy decisions. Him and Jane Hume were partly behind the working from home policy that backfired. So, but I think he's probably the best lower house option.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the best talent for the Liberals are in the Senate. I mean, James Patterson, very smart guy.
Yeah.
He's in the Senate. Dave Sharma, really smart guy, in the Senate. And of course, traditionally, you don't have leaders come from the Senate.
No, well, but I think whoever takes the leadership will be marking time, because to turn what happened on Saturday around, 3 years is a long time and things happen, and maybe Albanese won't be there for the next election. Maybe he'll retire and someone will be having the baton passed to them. But I think whoever's there will be marking time. I think. I don't think...
What about Jacinta Price?
Well, she's an obvious...
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, she's an obvious one. She'd be brilliant. But I have it, and this is my point. I think the next Liberal National Party Prime Minister is not in the lower house at the moment. They're not in the lower house, but they are certainly in the Senate. But they've got to make their way to the lower house to be elevated to that position.
You're telling Jacinta Price this?
Well, she knows I love her. I really think she's a great Australian, and I really think that we need someone to stand up and take us forward, and she'd be the person, if she could get to the lower house, that could do it.
And, people talk about modernising the Liberal Party. Well, having an Indigenous person and a female, that would be our first ever Indigenous Prime Minister.
It'd be wonderful. Plus, she's as smart as they come. I mean, she
can connect with people. She's
a complete package, and she, I think, is the future, but as I say, we'll mark time in the meantime to see what happens, and we'll see whether all these promises that have been made by the Prime Minister are kept, as opposed to what happened last time he was elected.
Now, Ray, before you go, I haven't asked you in a couple of weeks how your granddaughter's doing.
Little Lola is battling leukemia, just 3 she is. She's the bravest little soul I've ever encountered. She had a lumbar puncture, her 3rd or 4th, and a bone marrow biopsy last Thursday, and the results come out either tomorrow or Thursday. And she's now got this immunotherapy backpack on, which is revolutionary treatment for kids and others with leukemia. And hopefully when they do the 1 in 100,000 cell test tomorrow or Thursday, the leukemia will have disappeared. It doesn't mean it's gone forever. It just means that the treatment for the first 28 days and 56 days has worked. But look, I'm going to do that gold dinner again this year for the Sydney Children's Hospital Foundation, and it's going to be a bit different doing it this year. I do the auction and the pledges and things like that.
Very, very personal for you this
But it's really personal this time. It's really personal. 86 children every month are diagnosed across this country with some form of cancer or leukemia. Every month, 86. And I've had the situation of going to John Hunter, where my little baby girl is, and watching other parents come in a state of shock with a diagnosis. There's a little girl in an adjoining room, 6, and watching her grandparents and her mum and dad battle with it. And Lola's just one of many little children battling at the moment, and it's a battle we hope we can win. And look, the medical research, the things we're doing here in Australia are world class, and that's on our side. But and to all the people out there whose children and grandchildren like mine are battling, God bless you all, and we hope everything goes well for you, as it will hopefully for us.
Ray, when you get those results, please let me know.
I'll be texting you straight away. I'll text you text straight away.
Home. All right. All our love to Lola.
Thanks, darling.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week, Sharri. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.